Good evening. Birmingham's long-running bin strike is finally over after a deal was agreed between the Unite union and the City Council.
The 7-week dispute saw rubbish piling up in thousands of city streets. In a moment, we'll look at its long-term impact and why it took so long to be resolved. But first, here's Andy Bevan on the day the strike was finally called off.
At 10:30 this morning, the bin men took their seats on the picket line as they've done for the past 7 weeks. Even though word about a deal to end the dispute had been circulating since it was exclusively revealed on this programme last night, feelings between the bin men and the people of Birmingham were still running high.
We are paying the full council tax every month. How come we're getting all these problems? All the streets are getting smelly, all the rats in the area.
We're paying ours as well, mate. We're having our rubbish took as well.
Less than an hour into this morning's stoppage, the striking bin men were on their feet again, called to a canteen meeting by their union. They were told that officials from Unite had indeed hammered out a deal with the City Council at the offices of ACAS and that industrial action was being paused. To the workers emerging from the meeting, it meant the strike was over.
We just want to get back to work, do our job, clean the streets, and hopefully it's all resolved.
Are you pleased it's over?
Yeah, I'm pleased, yeah.
Got what you wanted?
Sort of.
Just hope we can now get back, get to supply the good service that citizens of Birmingham deserve.
Under the deal, Grade 3 workers who say they faced a pay cut of up to £5,000 or being moved to other jobs will remain in their current roles with their pay unchanged. Agreement has been reached to discuss bin crews moving from a 4-day to a 5-day working week. And both sides will examine long-term plans to improve efficiency and cut the cost of the city's waste collection in general.
I would like to pay tribute to John Clancy, leader of the council, who has stepped forward and shown leadership in order to find a resolution of this dispute. And I would like to thank the residents of Birmingham who have been put to great disruption and indeed hazards, but have in the main remained supportive of my members and understood why we were in this dispute.
Birmingham City Council, meanwhile, told ITV News that their position needs to be formally considered in a special cabinet meeting. That meeting, scheduled for next week, is widely expected to rubber stamp today's deal. The end of the bin strike will come as a relief to everyone, not least 73-year-old George Rowland. As we waited outside the Perry Bar depot this morning for news of the settlement, the pensioner appeared from a side street along with his wheelie bin, which he dragged 5 miles from his home in Witton.
I brought 2 bags down. So,
and you were happy to bring your own rubbish all that way?
Yes, it's not the first time. I've done it before.
Others, not on foot but in the traffic queue for what has effectively become self-service waste disposal, were delighted to learn of today's news.
Well, yeah, but I've had to bring mine down here myself for the last, 4 weeks.
Okay, we didn't know that.
Are you pleased?
Yes.
I'm glad it's over because it's been a nightmare.
So a 7-week industrial dispute that made national headlines and even led to hundreds of photo postings on a social media site called Birmingham Binstagram is over. Whichever side people took, or even if they were just caught in the middle, it'll now be nice to know that tomorrow it'll be yesterday's news. Andy Bevan, ITV News.
Well, good news indeed that the strike is over, but the clean-up is going to take some time.
Our correspondent Mark Goff is in Aston. And Mark, we can see the rubbish behind you, but what is the situation there?
Right, well, almost. Let's see what it is. 8 hours now since the strike was called off. Well, certainly since Unite said that they were halting the industrial action. It'd be great to wave a magic wand, wouldn't it, and get rid of all this rubbish which has been hanging around. So how do we get to this position? Well, the council wanted to change how the bin crews worked and make them more efficient. The bin crews were unhappy with some element of that, as we saw in Andy's report. So we had a dispute, we had stalemate, and we had parts of Birmingham turning into a massive rubbish tip. How did it get to this? Within a matter of weeks, Birmingham's streets became filthy. A desire by the City Council to change how the bin collections are done and make them more efficient was matched by an equally strong desire by a union to protect the bin workers. And it left the city in a mess. Within days of the strike starting, the rubbish began piling up. It led to people clearing it up themselves and to the council bringing in freelance bin crews at £40,000 a day. The agreement now being discussed should ensure this never happens again. according to a former union boss, now one of the city's MPs.
The people of Birmingham are proud of their city. They pay their council tax. They expect clean streets. And crucially, what this agreement now does is to commit all parties to work to ensure that happens in future. And Brummies can look forward to what they're entitled to expect. Not just that we clean away the mountains of rubbish, but that in future what we have is a service that the people of Birmingham can be proud of, so that if they come out of their front door in the morning, they see a clean street, not a dirty street.
Today in Aston, the rubbish was still waiting to be collected. It's now a game of catch-up. The council has a plan in place to pick up the backlog, but it still has to get on with the regular collections. Now the strike's halted, the crews will be working full-time, no longer going back to the depot 3 times a day for an hour at a time. In Aston, they've had their own way of coping.
I had a bit of a little routine where I'd sprinkle salt, like all of the, for the slugs. The rats you can't do nothing about. And what I was doing to cope with it though was I was taking the bins myself to the tip.
Really terrible, to be fair, because usually it was really clean, now it's gone really dirty.
A lot of mess everywhere and smells.
In a city which is bidding to host the Commonwealth Games, this isn't a winning look.
So Mark, 7 long weeks to actually resolve this dispute, but what do you think was actually the breakthrough?
Well, I think we've got to go back to last week. The council said that they invited Unite to go to ACAS. Unite, the union, said they could strike until Christmas. I think that was the key point then. And Howard Beckett, who's the Assistant General Secretary of Unite, told me last week that the man who could solve this dispute was John Clancy, the leader of the council. So on Friday, after those 2 things had happened, the 2 men got talking and then told that they had telephone conversations. The telephone conversations continued over the weekend, and eventually, as we exclusively revealed in the programme last night, they went to ACAS yesterday. Went yesterday afternoon, and it took, I'm told, a matter of just a couple of hours for both sides to be in the same room together to hammer out this deal. The question now, of course, is when can all this rubbish finally be cleared from the city?
And Mark, that's the very question really, because as we've seen from your report, some streets are in a heck of a mess. How long is it going to take to get it cleared?
I wish I could tell you. You want me to tell you the exact date and time, etc.? I wish I could. I can't. We asked the council this, and they said as soon as possible. They said we've got emergency crews out 3 times a week, and of course now the guys and gals of the bin crews are back to work. They're hoping they'll catch up quite quickly. And as I say, all I can say at the moment is it's going to be as soon as possible before the streets are cleared.
All right, Mark, thanks very much for that.
Let's look at some other news now. And